Yes, Kentucky has just lost a couple of players to the transfer portal, but is it really all that bad?
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of the show, we're going to be breaking down the exodus. Jasper Johnson and Brandon Garrison leaving Kentucky. What does it all mean? Is it any sort of significant loss here for the Cats? I don't necessarily think so, but I do want to give these players their credit where it is due, and then ask the question and answer it to the best of my ability. What does Kentucky need in the transfer portal this off season? Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. I want to remind everyone out there, we're free and available on all platforms. Subscribe wherever you are tuned in. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. During the tournament, FanDuel is offering $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. We'll start here at the top with Jasper Johnson, who it was announced earlier that he would be entering the transfer portal just a couple of hours ago. A 6'5", 180-pound freshman who came in as a 5-star top 25 prospect. And I don't mean to bash the kid. I'm sure that he is great as an individual. I am only critiquing his play here. It was extremely underwhelming, I think, on both sides of the ball. And to be honest with you, I don't think Jasper was supposed to be put in the situation that he was put in. So maybe there's a little bit of grace here that you give him. But whenever he did get action throughout the course of the season, there wasn't any sort of growth. There was not any sort of discipline, I think, in terms of shot selection, decision making, or defense. And just overall, just a very disappointing, underwhelming season from a guy who really does, I believe, like the University of Kentucky, wanted to stay here. Unfortunately, it just does not work out that way. Shot 34% from deep, 49% from inside the arc, an 88% foul shooter. You see those numbers, you don't think much of it, but when you actually watch Jasper play, and then you get to see the 20.9% turnover rate as well, you start to see all of these different problems with his game. You begin to understand that maybe on next season's roster, if Jasper's goal is to play, is to have some sort of meaningful impact on a college basketball team next season, you look at what Kentucky may be trying to do here and you say, okay, you might be best served going elsewhere to try and get more playing time. And I want to be clear here. Just because you didn't work out here does not mean, as long as he doesn't go to Louisville or Tennessee or Florida, or any major SEC rival for that matter, as long as he doesn't go to a rival, I am going to be pulling for Jasper. He very clearly wanted to come here and show out for his city, for his team. It didn't work out that way, and I really do wish him the best for wherever he ends up going. And to be honest with you, I have no idea where that could be. Could it be Alabama, the other team that recruited him really hard out of high school? Could it be out of the SEC? Could it be to a mid-major? Could it be to another high major program who thinks they can truly unlock what he has in terms of spot-up shooting? I think that you saw glimpses of it even before he got here with the USA men's national team. You got to see it in spurts during the non-con slate, but just Jasper is not the type of player in this current state that can meaningfully contribute to a team that wants to win a national championship. His defense is just too bad. He is way too turnover prone. He's just not strong enough with the ball. He was just not a good enough player to do the things that Kentucky needs him to do as a sophomore on next year's team. And maybe you can have the conversation about development this offseason, what he could do physically, what he could do mentally, what he could do to improve his game. I just don't necessarily see it panning out, and it seems like neither did he. He's leaving a program that he wanted to play for, and it's a shame that it's the way that it's ending for Jasper. But unfortunately here, that's the reality. And so now I think Kentucky, with a little bit of money, opened up with a little bit of opportunity to go get maybe somebody that impacts winning a little bit more on the floor. I think you have a number of options in the transfer portal, whether high end or middling to low end guys that you don't necessarily know a ton about. Kentucky's got options here. They could spend this money, pour it into a guy like Brett Decker. If we're looking for three-point shooting and explosive scoring to maybe replace what Jasper was supposed to be, Not what he was, but what he was supposed to be. Maybe you go get a Brett Decker. Maybe you go get somebody from FAU. Maybe you go get somebody from another mid-major that is athletic and can score consistently with the length and the wingspan and the athleticism and the strength that you need at that shooting guard spot. It's, again, I want to reiterate, it's unfair to him knowing how the point guard role played out to sit here and say he's trash, he's terrible, and he will never develop into a player that is good enough to compete at this level. I don't think that that's fair to say. I think that there's still a lot out in front of Jasper. I'm pulling for him. I'm pulling for his family. I wish him the best of luck. Just not what Kentucky needs right now. It's just not what Kentucky needs right now. And the big thing here for the Cats is, yes, they lose a player here. Yes, they lose a 5-star, but man, I have to ask you guys, if you're melting down about we just lost a 5-star prospect, a kid from Kentucky, if you're upset about that, again, the big thing here is that Pope and the staff were willing to make that change. We're cognizant of the fact that this is not a player that can contribute, and so maybe they offered him less money. Maybe they said his role was still going to be shrunk if we have point guard depth. Whatever they did to tell him, hey, this might not be for you, I think that's a good step in the right direction, knowing that Kentucky knows, and we've talked about this already after Jalen Lowe left, we know that Kentucky is cognizant of the things they have to do to make this a national championship contending roster, which is what this fan base expects. It's what the staff expects. It's what Pope expects. Jasper Johnson in his current state just simply not cut out to be a Kentucky Wildcat. And I truly do want him to succeed elsewhere. But this staff clearly is moving in a different direction, and I'm excited to see what they do. I want to talk about the other player here that's entered the transfer portal for Kentucky, Brandon Garrison. Is this a loss? Is it the end of the world? We'll break it all down here in just a moment. Before we do it, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Mazda.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. The NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament Elite Eight wrapped up with the UConn Huskies staying undefeated at 38-0 after a decisive win over Notre Dame, while the UCLA Bruins rallied past Duke behind a dominant second half performance. On the other side, the remaining 1 seeds in South Carolina and Texas will be determined after their matchups against TCU and Michigan, respectively. Next up, the Final Four is set for Friday in Phoenix, with the winners advancing to the national championship on Sunday. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
All right, today's episode is also brought to you by TurboTax. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is just frankly a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, still waiting in a room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. All right, continuing along here on today's episode of the show, Lance Dawe hanging out here with you, maybe saying, Lance, where are you? What on earth is going on? You look like you're in some sort of retro home. Like you look like you're living in the 1960s right now. Where are you? I am in the heart of downtown Indianapolis. Downtown Indianapolis, going to the Final Four. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a blast. I hate the Cats aren't here, but I'm very excited to see UConn, Illinois, Arizona, and Michigan battle it out for a national championship. Super fun stuff. Very excited to be here. Blessed to be here, honestly. Brandon Garrison gone from Kentucky alongside Jasper Johnson. This happened within maybe 15, 20 minutes of each other. Jasper announces, Garrison announces as well. I think that you could make the argument, a pretty easy argument, that Garrison is a more important piece to the puzzle for Kentucky than Jasper was. And I think that's just simply because of the fact that he was the backup center and Kentucky didn't have another option. And when he was on, he was a very good player. And when he was off, he was very, very, very bad. I want to tie this in quickly before we dive into just my thoughts on Garrison overall. When you go to evanmia.com, and he is, if you don't like KenPom, Evan Miyakawa is the leader right now in college basketball analytics. If you don't like KenPom, he's the other guy you need to be listening to. If you go to on-off splits for Kentucky, and you look at their worst two-man lineup, three-man lineup, the worst two players that Kentucky can put on the floor at the same time that do more damage than any other two players combined are Brandon Garrison and Jasper Johnson. And folks, I don't like to say it's not even close a lot. It was not even close. Those two made Kentucky worse when they were on the floor last season. You can say what you want about the Kentucky kid in Jasper. You can say what you want about Garrison in the McDonald's All-American and the ceiling that he has. The reality of the situation is that neither of them were winning basketball players. Neither of them. Not on this team. And sure, you could make the argument, maybe with a differently constructed roster, they could find a spot and find success. I want to come back to the fact that this staff is willing to move on to possibly search for better is good. Now, they do need some amount of retention. They need, most importantly, more than anything now, they need Malachi Marino to come back. We'll get more into that here in just a few minutes. But they're making, I think, on the surface, the right calls. The analytics, I think I would agree with it. The eye test certainly agrees with it. And I think you, as a fan, and myself as a fan, would agree both of these players did not do enough on the floor to make Kentucky basketball better. Credit to Garrison for his heroics against Santa Clara. It was a bad matchup for the Broncos against Garrison, a very athletic 6'10", 250 center. Unfortunately, you're not going to face Santa Clara every time you step out onto the court. And when Garrison was off this past season, frankly, his entire career, when he decided it's not BG time and we're not going to give effort today, it was abhorrent. It was really, really bad. You cannot, and I mean cannot, go and get a backup center that can at the very least produce some sort of consistent effort for your team. You have to get somebody who actually wants to give the effort and the energy needed to sustain the level of success that your starters have. Malachi Marino is the starting center on this team moving forward. And they need somebody to pair with him, maybe a stretch guy, maybe a more physical guy, maybe a more athletic guy. I don't know what exactly they're looking for, but they need a really, really well-rounded big who can catch. And they got to go out and find him. But I feel like I'm talking in circles here a little bit. I just don't see, if you're a fan and you're upset about this, I can understand to an extent, but you can't not look at the situation and go, I'm excited to see what Kentucky does to try and upgrade the situation, because Garrison and Jasper were not winning players. Neither of them were. It is inarguable when you watch them play. Forget all the stats. If you're not a stats nerd, if you're not a big analytics guy, if you just simply base it off of that boy tough, or like you just think that guy's hoop, like, which is fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Sometimes you got to do that. You can't watch these two players play and you have to look outside the highlights. You can't watch these two players play this entire season and say, those are players that are on a national championship team. I would dare you And I don't mean this in an argumentative, like, I'm challenging you type way, in a negative way. I'm genuinely curious. If you think that these two players would be on a national championship winning team contributing in any amount, I want you to sound off in the comments below at LockedOnUK on Twitter. Explain it to me. Because as far as I can tell, I don't see it. I do not see it. Let's wrap up the show. We've already kind of been talking about it a little bit. What does Kentucky need out of the transfer portal? What do they need? We'll do that in a second. I want to tell you guys first about our friends over at FanDuel. The tournament is wrapping up. It's one of the best times of the year. The Final Four is here. Brackets, buzzer beaters, upsets. It's nonstop action from the final tip to the final cut down of the nets. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a way to stay in the action here as the tournament wraps up. And the best part, you get $300, up to $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. That means 10 chances to stay involved throughout the entire tournament. Well, only got a couple of games left here, but you can mix it up however you want. Game picks, futures, or even same game parlays for bigger potential payouts. It's the perfect storm for the tournament because every single day there's something new. You got 3 more games here to look at different matchups, storylines, and more ways to get involved as the bracket wraps up. Visit FanDuel.com to sign up today. That's FanDuel.com to get in on the action. Today's episode is also brought to you by Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets change the game. It's people moving the action. So when the momentum shifts, you can move with it. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. All right, wrapping up today's episode of the show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We got to go quickly here. What does Kentucky need? I was talking about this at dinner with my dad, actually. What does Kentucky need? And I think I agree with what he says. Is already kind of what I was leaning towards. They need a few things. First and foremost, now that Brandon Garrison is gone, they need a well-rounded, the best guy that they can get that will be a backup center at the University of Kentucky. They need the best guy they can possibly get that can catch the ball and can dunk he can finish at the rim. We need a strong, physical player who has the hands to play the 5. We need a true 5 who can rock people's world. That's what Kentucky needs first. Maybe not first, but now it's one of the biggest priorities now that Garrison is gone. They need a shooter or shooters, plural. They need kids that can knock it down from just about anywhere. Brett Decker, whoever it is, you need shooters. The Mark Pope system does not work if you cannot space the floor consistently. Kentucky couldn't do that last season. It's a lot tougher to run offense. And Kentucky was still okay. They were fine. Not good, but fine. You need shooters. Bad. If you want this team to be good, you need guys who can shoot. And then finally, whether it's at point, whether it's at shooting guard, whether it's on the wing, it doesn't matter. They need a guy who can score in volume. And Kentucky is already looking at a number of players in the portal, some of which we've talked about. They need a guy who is a volume contributor. Yes, they need a point guard. Yes, they need point guard depth. I don't disagree. They need that bad. Volume scoring, efficient shooting, and a 5-man who can rock people's world. That's what Kentucky needs. And yes, they can get the point guards. Yes, they can get the scoring. Yes, they can round this roster out really well. But I think it starts with your bookends. I think it starts with your 1 and your 5. What can those two guys do for your team? And it doesn't have to be for your 1. He averages 18 a game. It doesn't have to be for your 5. He averages 2.5 blocks and he goes insane. I think that you could probably find more efficient scoring and powerful scoring maybe at your wing spot or your 4, which I have no idea what Kentucky's going to look like at the 4 this season. But that's what you need. You need to kind of rejuvenate this roster, spice it up, bring some guys in that you know are going to be flashy, are going to be athletic, and are going to contribute to, what have I been saying? winning basketball. Players like Tyrone Riley, who just elevate the floor. Players like Brett Decker, who take it up a notch. You need those contributors. That you need that talent. You need the experience. We went over it on the most recent episode. That's what I think the Cats need. That's going to do it for today's episode of the show. You can follow the show on Twitter at LockedOnUK. Follow me on Twitter at Lance Dawe _ and follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, you can leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all on Monday for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God bless.